What happens when a country that fuels its entire war machine suddenly runs out of the very lifeblood that keeps it moving? Right now, the heart of Russia's war engine is beginning to sputter. The fuel that powers its tanks, its planes, its economy, and even the food on its people's tables is vanishing. Across the vast stretches of Russian territory, silent queues are forming. Gas stations run dry, markets whisper of empty shelves, and in secret corridors of power, officials are preparing something not seen since the darkest days of the Soviet Union: food coupons. This is not a distant possibility anymore. It is the rapidly approaching reality of a food crisis sparked by a devastating fuel shortage, and it could push Russia to the brink. Over the past months, Ukraine has launched a relentless campaign of drone attacks on Russian oil infrastructure. These strikes have been precise, surgical, and devastating. Nearly 17% of Russia's oil refining capacity has already been disabled. This is not just an inconvenience. This is an open wound in the economic body of the Russian Federation. And here's the shocking part. Experts warn that if Ukraine manages to destroy even half of Russia's oil refining capacity in its European region, it could paralyze not just the economy, but also the country's ability to wage war at all. Imagine the scale of this. Russia is the world's second largest oil exporter. It has long seemed untouchable, insulated by its vast reserves. But behind this facade, something fragile is cracking. Oil exports are the backbone of Russia's state budget. The moment oil prices dip, the Russian budget deficit explodes by 8 times, according to political and economic expert Taras Zagorodny. When that financial artery collapses, the government has nothing to plug the holes. No surplus, no fallback. That is exactly what Ukraine is doing, methodically dismantling the infrastructure that fuels Russia's aggression, piece by piece, strike by strike. In just the last month, Ukrainian drones have hit at least 10 major Russian energy facilities, not random attacks. These are refineries, pumping stations, fuel trains, the arteries of Russia's energy lifeline. And they are bursting. The impact is already being felt. Gasoline prices in Russia have soared to record highs despite desperate government attempts to control them, even banning petrol exports entirely. But bans don't create fuel. They just trap panic inside the country. The summer months made the problem worse. Summer is when demand for fuel peaks in Russia, not just for millions of drivers, but also for farmers racing to harvest. Now, as supplies dwindle, those farmers face a nightmare, fields full of crops they can't gather, and that is where the food crisis truly begins. Because once the harvests fail, food prices spiral. The cost of bread, milk, meat all climb beyond reach. And when people can't afford food, unrest brews. Older Russians remember this all too well. The days of state rationing, when bread, meat, even sugar were handed out by coupons. When shop shelves were bare, those were the final years of the Soviet Union, when economic failure cracked the empire apart. And now, history threatens to repeat itself. While Russia scrambles to contain this internal crisis, its war machine shows no sign of slowing. Just days ago, the Kremlin launched its largest aerial assault since the start of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Over 800 drones filled the skies in a single night. For the first time, Russian missiles even struck the cabinet of ministers building in Kiev, the heart of Ukraine's government. Yulia Sviridenko, the Ukrainian prime minister, revealed the charred damage to the building, saying, "Russian terror will not stop the government's work. We will restore the damage, but Ukrainian lives cannot be restored." It was a clear message. Russia is not seeking peace. It is not ready for negotiations. It is doubling down. But here lies the paradox. Even as Russia intensifies its assaults, its ability to sustain this war is crumbling from within. Its jets can fly, but only if there is fuel. Its tanks can roll, but only if the refineries keep working. Its population can endure, but only if they can eat. And right now, Ukraine is attacking all three at once. This is more than an economic war. It is psychological. When shelves go empty, when prices skyrocket, when citizens start lining up for rations, the image of invincibility that the Kremlin projects begins to shatter. People stop believing in victory. Soldiers stop believing in their leaders. Elites start fearing the collapse of everything they've built their fortunes upon. That is the silent front line Ukraine is opening, far from the trenches inside the minds of those who keep Putin in power. And make no mistake, this is approaching fast. Oil infrastructure is not easily replaced. Once destroyed, refineries can take years to rebuild, and the losses are compounding week by week. If half of Russia's refining capacity in its European regions is destroyed, as Zagorodny warns, it won't just dent the economy, it will detonate it. The state budget will implode, the ruble will collapse, soldiers won't be paid, shops won't be stocked, and then the coupons will appear, not as a temporary measure, but as the desperate mechanism of a collapsing state. While all this unfolds, individual tragedies mount. The same week these refinery strikes escalated, 4 Ukrainian soldiers, trapped for over 3 years in Russian-controlled territory, were finally evacuated, according to Oleksiy Nezhpapa, commander of the Ukrainian Navy. These human stories are often overshadowed by the larger strategic picture, but they are reminders of what this war costs, not just in fuel and food, but in lives and years stolen. So now the question becomes, how long can Russia balance on this knife's edge? How long can it keep waging a colossal war while its own people edge toward hunger? Because the deeper this fuel crisis digs into Russia's economy, the closer the Kremlin comes to a choice it has avoided for years: either scale back its war or face rebellion at home. And as history shows, hunger topples regimes far faster than armies ever can. This is the reality Moscow now faces. Every new Ukrainian drone strike on a refinery is more than just a military blow. It is a countdown tick. A countdown to when Russia can no longer keep the lights on, keep the shelves full, or keep its people silent. The government may posture. It may ban fuel exports, fix prices, deny the shortages. But bans and denials do not move trains. They do not fill silos. They do not feed hungry children. And when the fuel finally runs out, when the food lines form, and when the ration coupons are handed out, that might be the moment when Russia's war finally dies.